Hello mathematicians, I'm really excited to be here with you today. We're starting a new unit on time. I know that time can be a little bit tricky for us. The reason that I know that is because a lot of times during the day when we're at school, you guys will ask me, what time is it? And I'll point at the clock, or you'll say, how many more minutes do we have? And I'll point at the clock and the schedule. And sometimes you guys look at me like I'm crazy, you totally forgot how to read a clock. Some of you not, but I know that it can be tricky for us. So let's review how to read a clock. I know that you learned this in second grade, but it's always good to get a little bit of a refresher. So the time that we're gonna start with is 8:50. Okay, so I have my old clock that's out of batteries that I got off my kitchen wall that we're going to use, okay? This says 8:50. The reason that I know that is that first I read the shorthand, which is the hour hand, okay? The hour hand right now is in between the 8 and the 9. There's not an 8 there, we have to imagine it. But do you see 7 and then blank and then 9? So the 8 is there. I know that the hour hand is almost to the 9. That's because it's almost 9 o'clock. It's 10 minutes to 9 o'clock. So that's why the hour hand is almost to the 9, but since it's in between the 9 and the 8, we always say the 8, okay? We know that it's 8:50 because the big hand or the minute hand is pointing to the 10. So remember, each number represents 5 minutes, right? So if we start at the 12, that's 0, 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, 45, 50, okay? So this clock shows 8:50. The hour hand is in between the 8 and the 9, and the minute hand is on the 10, which is 50, okay? Now, this is where it gets a little bit trickier in third grade. Have you guys ever asked your parents what time it is and they say something funky like, oh, it's 10 to 9, or it's quarter after, or something like that? My mom always used to say that to me and I would get so confused. So today we're gonna learn how to say times in 3 different ways, okay? So first, we all know the first way to say this in words would be 8:50. Okay. Now the other two are a little bit trickier. So the other ways that we can say 8:50 have to do with there being 60 minutes in an hour. Okay, I'm gonna write that up here so we remember. 60 minutes in 1 hour. Okay, we all knew that, right? I'll keep it up there just in case. So the other two have to do with there being 60 minutes in 1 hour, okay? So the second way that we could say this, we would say 10 minutes to 9. 10 minutes to 9, okay? How you find the 10 is you take 60, which is the amount of minutes in an hour, and you subtract the minutes. Okay, 60 minus 50 is 10. So that's how we get 10 minutes to 9. Okay? Now that's probably the trickiest way. The third way makes you sound a little bit silly if you say it, so I wouldn't recommend saying it this way, but here's the third way. You would say 50 minutes past or 50 minutes after 8. I hear people say 8:50 a lot. I hear people say 10 minutes to 8 sometimes. 10 minutes to 9 sometimes. I rarely hear people say something like 50 minutes past 8 or 50 minutes after 8. Okay, so that one's a little bit wonky. Let's try one together. and then I'm gonna have you try one on your own. Okay, so the time I'm gonna give you is 11:15. All right, let's do this one together too, because this one has 3 ways to say it as well. So let's practice these 3 ways. The first one, of course, would be what? You got it, 11:15. 11:15 on my broken clock. Let's do it really quick. We need to make sure that the hour hand or the short hand is just past 11. Then our minute hand is on the 5, 10, 15. So here we have 11:15. We know that it's 11:15 because the short hand is in between the 11 and 12, and the long hand is at 0, 5, 10, 15. Okay, 11:15. And the second way that we're going to say this, the second easiest way, right, would be 15 past or after 11. Okay, and then there's kind of the funky way that maybe we wouldn't hear people say as much. It has to do with there being 60 minutes in 1 hour. So we would have to take 60 minus 15. So we would say, oh, which is 45. Sorry. 45 minutes to 12. Or if it was AM, you could say 45 minutes to noon. If it was PM, you could say 45 minutes to midnight. Okay, now I'm gonna have you guys try this next one on your own before we go over it together. Going to do 3:30. Okay, go ahead, scholars. I'm gonna find 3:30 on my clock as you write it out in words. Now, this one's a little bit tricky, so this maybe isn't the best one for me to use as an example, but I'm curious to see what you guys came up with. 3:30 on the clock looks like this. The short hand is in between the 3 and the 4. The long hand is at the 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30. So this says 3:30. Okay, so I hope that that's what you put for your first way to say this. Another way to say this would be 30 to 4, or 30 minutes, sorry. 30 minutes to 4, or 30 minutes past or after 3. Now when we have a 30, that's halfway between 0 and 60, right? So we have 60 minutes in an hour. Halfway to 60 from 0 is 30. So an easier way to say this would actually be half an hour to 4, or half past 3. Okay, so that's just, there's many ways to say it. We're gonna stick with these 3 ways. Let's try one more together. Or no, one more on your own. That one can't work. 4:10. All right, go ahead, scholars. Write the 3 ways to say it on your whiteboards or in your notebook. Okay. Pause your device if you're not ready. We're gonna keep going. Okay, so this is 4:10 on my clock. The shorthand is in between the 4 and the 5, and my longhand is in 5:10. So that's 4:10. Of course, the first way we're gonna write that is 4:10, right? Then we're going to say 10 past 4. And then remember, the last one has to do with there being 60 minutes in an hour, so 60 minus 10 is 50. It would be 50 minutes to 5. Okay? All right, so I hope that this helps you on your homework and gave you a little bit of a refresher on how to tell time and different ways to say the time. Have a great day. Bye, mathematicians.